Welcome to Dubai Airshow 2025 edition. We were last here 4 years ago, and some things have changed while other things haven't. You'll be seeing some of the same stuff as last time. 777X is back. It's technically closer to certification, but not that much closer. We've got the Emirates A380, which was a nice one to tour last time. But we've also got some interesting and maybe unexpected items here at the Airshow, and that's what I want to focus on today, looking at some of the underdogs of the Dubai Airshow, the less expected, some of the surprises, and taking a look around, especially on this flight line. The flight line is where we really want to be, right? Inside there are stands for every imaginable aviation company. There's all these chalets, which are very comfy inside. But we want to be out here in the hot and sweaty sun looking at the airplanes, I think. Plenty of interesting things to talk about. Spending a couple of days here. I'll take you around, show you what I think is the most interesting. Thanks for joining. Let's go do this. Of course, I said I'd be looking at the less reported, undercovered items at the Airshow, but when the 777X is getting pushed back, preparing for its flying display, you can't ignore it, right? You gotta get as close as you can to it. Those folding wingtips are really, really impressive. They just give it this very aggressive and exciting look, if you ask me. What do you think? Yeah, it's a really impressive looking airplane, wow. These folding wingtips were designed so that the 777X could fit at all existing gates that the 777-300ER can. Once they're folded up, the wingspan is exactly the same. They actually fold up automatically on landing once the plane slows to 50 knots, to reduce pilot workload after the landing. But we're going to get on board and learn more about these systems soon. It is very impressive, that 777X. Beautiful to see it flying like that. Over here we have Riyadh Air, who wanted to turn their planes purple on Flight Radar 24, and when we told them they couldn't, they completely ghosted us. I was sorry that we couldn't fulfill that request, but it was not possible, and I wanted to make some videos about them, but they disappeared after that. No purple planes, no fun videos for us or you. So yeah, too bad, because they're interesting. And here we have SCAT, legendary airline of Kazakhstan. So what we're looking at here is the REGENT Seaglider, which kind of really neatly blends aviation and maritime vessels. It's something that is designed to float in ground effect and travel at 300 kilometers an hour, fully electric, although there's hybrid options and ways to turn it into having defense capabilities, and they're working on this drone version that's a quarter the size. It's all very cool. It looks really interesting. It's not the full aircraft yet. They're going to fly the full aircraft in Rhode Island next year, beginning of next year. But here we can get a sense of what it's going to be like inside. And what's interesting is that it's at the SDF booth, which is the Strategic Development Fund of the UAE. So that's a funder, that's their investor to making this possible, among many other things. And the UAE is very interested in this vessel's applications on both defense and commercial side for use in the Gulf here. Anywhere there's water, it could be potentially interesting. I think it's a really cool project. So let's go and hear from Billy, the founder, and get a little bit more info about what this Seaglider is all about.
So we're entering the Seaglider here, big cargo door, both commercial passenger and cargo missions for this. So you'd come on in, can load your bags in the back here. Lots of headroom, lots of aisle width. This is the Viceroy Seaglider, so this is the 12-seat configuration. We have this 5x7, we also have a 6x6. As you walk through, you'll notice the incredible view out the windows, how big these windows are, the experience of flying 10 meters off the surface at 300 kilometers an hour is just going to be truly incredible. We have our Mariner captains at the front driving the Seaglider. The only controls are left and right, fast and slow. So it's boat controls or car controls. Even when you're flying in the air, the autonomous flight control system handles all of that, keeps you locked in at 10 meters, and you just say, I want to go left or right, and it flies you left and right automatically.
Oh, wow, okay. Huh. So they're basically like operators. They're not pilots in that
Exactly.
sense.
They're not just operators, they're mariners. So they'll be credentialed mariners. It's like if you're doing fast ferry operations today, the regulation environment is very similar for a fast ferry as for a Seaglider. Seaglider is obviously faster, but the same sort of navigation, right-of-way understanding of how to captain a vessel in the sea will apply to a Seaglider. Then they'll take our training course at Regent. That'll be 4 to 5 weeks of training, and then they'll be equipped to captain the Seaglider.
That's so interesting. So is there pitch control then, or no?
There's no pitch control, no. And really, when you look sort of over the past of aviation incidents and accidents, so much of it is pilot error. And so now we have, incredible sensors and digital flight controls. This is a triple redundant flight control system that governs that takeoff, altitude control, coordinates your turn as you're flying, and landing procedure. We don't need humans to do that anymore. So we can let humans do what humans are good at, which is navigating, communicating, thinking ahead, etc. And we'll let the flight control systems manage takeoff, flight, and landing. Floats like a boat, can operate anywhere in the water, but flies like a plane. But when it does so, it flies within a wingspan of the surface of the water on a cushion of air called the ground effect, sort of like a bird does when it flies low over the water. All electric vehicle, battery powered, very quiet, zero emissions. Carries 12 passengers, has a range of about 300 kilometers, and so we can do something like Dubai, Abu Dhabi in under a half hour on this thing.
And so it always has to fly over the water, obviously. You're not doing any land-based flying. Yeah.
That's exactly right. And because of that, it's actually regulated as a vessel and not as an aircraft. It's always staying in that maritime environment.
So is this one of the places you're looking at in terms of markets that are interesting for this aircraft?
100%. We at Regent spend a lot of time in UAE. SDF is our investors, and we're also working with them on a joint venture that would bring Seaglider manufacturing, maintenance, and crew training to Abu Dhabi.
Is there anything else like this out there right now, or this is the first of its kind?
This is the first of its kind. I mean, really the first new mode of transportation since the helicopter, you could argue. Something that floats, foils, and flies. And that middle mode, that hydrofoiling mode, pretty important because it gives wave tolerance for a Seaglider that can take off and land in 5 foot or 1.5 meters seas that no seaplane or flying boat or anything like it has had in the past.
Check out that Dubai police helicopter. Not only do they have bagpipers, they've got pretty cool looking helicopters too. We'll be going on board the SCAT 737 MAX a little bit later too, so stay tuned. Been a lot of talk and anticipation about eVTOL, electric vertical takeoff and landing, autonomous in most cases, aircraft doing things like urban air taxi missions. It's been going on for a long time that we've been anticipating the arrival of these, and they haven't really come into actual service yet. But we just saw a demonstration, a flying demonstration by Joby, one of the leaders in this sector, and so I thought what would be interesting is to maybe talk to some of the people that are involved with the infrastructure around these, because that's been the really big question. We know these things can fly, and I'm sure they can make them safe and efficient, but how are we going to have the systems in place, the air traffic control, the vertiports as they call them? Where are they going to take off and land? How are they going to move people into the sky and back down safely in large numbers potentially? And the UAE is where a lot of that is being proven, tested, started. This is where we're going to see it first. So we're going to go over and talk to the CEO of Skyports Infrastructure, which is a company that is on the front lines of that here, just figuring out the answers to those questions. I'm really curious to know what they're actually doing and where things are at. When can we first fly on one of these Jobys or Archers? Also this pavilion here, Skyfall from Ukraine. These are the guys that are making these small drones that are taking out the drones that are attacking them. Really cool to see this pavilion right here. And very interesting in this part of the world where we're also seeing the Sukhoi, the Russian latest generation fighter on display. It's, kind of the world meets right here in a big way. This pavilion for the advanced air mobility projects is actually really nice. Better air conditioning, quieter, calmer than the rest of that crazy main hall and outside in the sun. This is a nice respite over here, looking at all these eVTOLs, which I didn't even know existed. Honda, for example, it's experimental, I guess. Did not know they were working on it.
So we're building the infrastructure for advanced air mobility. So you've seen all these flying taxis that Joby and Archer and Beta and all of the other guys. They're out there really close to certification now. That launches the air taxi service industry. It's been talked about forever, but now it's reality. And we build the infrastructure for that. So we call them vertiports, but think of them like mini airports all over city centres. And what's exciting is that this isn't a replication of the helicopter market, which is a tool for the oligarchs. This is an entirely new form of public transportation accessible by you and me, the masses. That means we can do lots of things. These vehicles are electric, they're quiet, they're super safe, and the price point is accessible to many, so we can access denser city centres with these vehicles. So they should really help congestion, help people move, and cargo ultimately move around city.
It has felt like for quite some time we've heard quite a bit about the promise of these aircraft, but very little about the infrastructure that would underpin them or how it's going to be possible. And in many cases it seems as if that infrastructure isn't even being considered yet. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, it's really it's difficult, right? Because infrastructure takes a very long time to build and it's very capital intensive. And in order to justify the capital that you're going to put into one of these things, you need to know that you're going to have a revenue stream. So same as building an airport, you don't build an airport if you're not sure if any aircraft are going to come. And until we've got to this point where certification is right on the cusp and the big vehicle manufacturers have raised billions of dollars, most of them are listed on the public markets, we're now at a point where there's the confidence to be able to deploy capital into infrastructure. So we've been building here in Dubai, we're under construction on the first two. The next two will follow during the course of next year. We'll be ready for operations 31st March 2026 in Dubai. Because it's a complicated thing. We're building an entirely new public transportation network from scratch. And unless you have real good alignment of those stakeholders, it's nearly impossible. I'm talking security agencies, airspace, planning departments, electrification departments, all kind of stakeholders.
Yeah, I was especially curious about the airspace, management of airspace, how you can sort of work with existing airspace, and how much goes into that on your end.
Yeah, so it's complicated. It's really complicated. It's complicated and it's simple. It's simple in the sense that there are existing helicopter routes and people can fly around cities in helicopters. So we're not trying to change the entire planet doing that. What we're trying to do is use what's there. Having said that, when getting into dense city centre environments, you've got to be really careful about what else is there. Lots of high-rises in Dubai in particular. We're building immediately adjacent to the airport in Dubai, so that required a little bit of coordination and airspace change. But the plan with all of these things is not to try and do the most complicated up front. It's complicated enough, so incrementally, step by step, we'll get there. But look, it's real and it's happening now. It's been talked about for decades, and we're now right on the cusp. We're going to be launching operations in the Middle East early next year. I think that's going to be a great proof point, and then we expect it to accelerate in many places.
It's not an airshow video if you don't join up with Airbus for a little tour of their aircraft. Airbus always amazing and hospitable to us, showing us so much. And if you've been watching the channel for a while, you'll have seen how many of the factories I've been to. It's been amazing. So they're going to take us around to some of the Airbus that are stationed here out on the static display, including the TAAG Angola A220, which I've been really dying to see inside ever since I saw one before the livery was unveiled, before the A220 with the new livery was unveiled for the first time in Mirabel when I was doing that video. I'll put it down in the description, all that, so you can check it out if you haven't seen it. But yeah, looking forward to getting on board. Tomorrow, come back and try and get in a bunch more of the aircraft, including the COMAC C919. That's a big priority for me too, to see that one inside, because I never have. Tough at the air shows to get enough time to really settle in and check it out, but I hope to be flying on one of these in some more videos in a more real way, including up front in the new year in 2026. Working on it, trying to bring that to you. I think it'd be really cool. They just opened a new airport in Luanda, transferred all their operations over. They're taking 787s, A220s, they're refitting the 777s. Very exciting times for TAAG, and a really interesting airline for sure. And this seems like a really nice way to fly short segments around Africa, I would say. Now it's time to check out the A400M. I've been on this before, I think at the last air show. Pretty sure. Or was I? I'm not even sure. I can't remember now. A400M aircraft visit. They actually flew one of these around Dubai on Sunday and I missed it. Would have been really cool to do. I should have made it happen. But yeah, it looked like an amazing way to test out this very unique aircraft. So downside, no windows. Plus side, unlimited legroom, at least because there's no cargo in the middle. I guess in theory they could have people sitting on the side and stuff loaded in here, and then you wouldn't have much room at all. There are actually windows, just not for you. But hey, a little bit of light in the cabin is better than none for sure. So cool. One of the problems with coming to Dubai Airshow is it's way out of Dubai and there's a lot of traffic, especially coming into the airshow, but also just around. There's a huge amount of traffic. It's all these massive highways and they're all kind of full. And there's no public transport coming to Dubai World Central, Al Maktoum Airport, where this is located. Now, if you've been following some of this, you might know that this was conceived as the replacement for Dubai International, which is much closer to town. It's 15 minutes from parts of central Dubai. but it's totally constrained. They can't grow anymore, and Emirates obviously huge there, wanting to grow more. Dubai growing, everyone wanting to fly there. It's just impossible at this point. So they had originally planned to make this the international hub for Dubai long ago, but COVID got in the way, various things. It's still in the plans though. There are some commercial flights here. It's mostly cargo at the moment, but you do find commercial flights here. You can click on it on Flight Radar 24 and see the departures and arrivals. There's planes going to Russia, things like that. A handful, not very much. Even some Eurowings flights come here. Eventually, this is supposed to be where everything is going to be located. They're going to build 5 runways in total, massive, multi-hundred millions. I'll put the number down here, whatever it is. Something like 230 million people a year they want to have pass through here. And there'll be a day, apparently it's currently slotted for 2032, when Emirates, Fly Dubai, everybody moves here. So it's coming. It's just a lot slower than they originally envisioned. And hopefully, by that time, they manage to put in some rail links. There is a metro that goes to the Expo site, but that's a ways away still, so presumably they've got that covered and planned for, but much needed. It would be so nice to be able to take a high-speed rail out here, get to the air show, and not wait in that silly traffic to try and get into the site. Here we have a model of what they plan for it to look like when everything is operational. A lot of runways, presumably a lot of underground connector trains to get between terminals, things like that. So day 2, Dubai Airshow. Yesterday kind of a lot of stuff got in the way. It was hard to get around to all the aircraft that I wanted to. What I really want to do is get out here and tour the aircraft on the static display. And so today that's my goal. I'm going to try and do as much of that as I can. It can be a funny experience at Dubai Airshow trying to get on board the aircraft because they'll have a lot of things scheduled. VIP visits, customer visits, people looking to buy, airlines, also royal visits. So much of the time you can be foiled. Try to go get in the plane and you get told no. So it's always an interesting experience. Sometimes you have to go back many times, and I'm prepared to do that today until I collapse. They're open late tonight, so there might be some fun stuff in the evening here too. I don't know what it's going to be. Hopefully some enjoyable events. I don't know. So let's go try and get on board some aircraft. Alright, initially rejected from the Boeing 777X, which is really the main goal, but it's looking promising. I think there will be a way to get on a bit later. They have a little media slot. I'll have to maybe charm my way in a little bit because we're not on any official list because Boeing doesn't really like to work with us. But we're going to make it happen. We're going to do it. I really want to get on board. Even though I was on board 4 years ago, nice to see what it looks like in there, do a little update. And so many of you have been asking about the folding wingtips and how they work. So I'd like to show a little bit of that if possible. I will do my best. For now, maybe gonna try and get on board this other Boeing here, the Emirates 777-300ER. That's totally refitted with the new premium economy, and it's their first aircraft with Starlink Wi-Fi, which they just announced is gonna come to the whole fleet. So that's pretty cool. Let's see if we can get on board. All right, no resistance to coming on board the 777. Thank you, Emirates. Nice to be welcomed easily into an airplane.
Welcome. How are you? Have a look around.
How are you? Right, so this is the new business class, the redone, kind of updated. This is not so dissimilar from what you get on an Emirates A380 in terms of sort of seat layout, the amount of space, aisle access, but it is very different from what you get on their typical 777-300ERs, where you have middle seats, you have no direct aisle access from window seats in most cases. First class looking really nice. It's not the latest and greatest super one with the fake windows in the center seats, but it's really beautiful anyway. And all the amenities, crazy how many little products you get, and even in just the amenity gets so much stuff. Yeah.
For kids, so depending on the age, we give some for babies. We don't really give toys that they might swallow, and everything else goes according to ages.
I'm just blown away by the fact that they give really nice, beautifully designed, proper amenity kits in economy. I've seen amenity kits in business class that are the same quality level on other airlines, and this is just like, I don't know, all the products they give, all the stuff for kids. It reminds me of what Etihad does in that sense as well. Just really above and beyond for sort of giving people nice things that they really don't have to. And I've actually never flown Emirates economy, at least not in a really, really long time. Like the one I flew back when I was younger is totally different product, but I really want to try this actually on a maybe from if they send one of these refitted 777s to Stockholm, it would be a nice chance to try this. Maybe premium economy one way, economy the other, and it seems like such a nice way to travel with your family too. If you have kids, just like a very friendly atmosphere with a lot of nice perks and little pluses, and you get little kids product bags, and you know, even in an economy to get that kind of amenity kit, really beautifully designed with some basic products. It's just so nice. It's just dignified, you know. Like it seems like they treat you well, no matter what class you're in. Even though it's all about the super luxury, like the really headliner stuff up in first and business is amazing, over the top. They still pay attention to economy, and that's pretty rare among airlines, I think. So, got to commend Emirates for that, and I think I need to start maybe flying them more often. Getting on board the 777X, guys. I'm gonna try and get some info about these folding wingtips. They are really impressive.
The folding wingtips is really a very simple design, extremely reliable. The pilots will manually extend the wingtips prior to entering the runway. It's a procedural driven step that the pilots need to go through. There are all various warning systems in place to tell the pilots if they have not folded the wingtips prior to takeoff. And then there's a significant series of warnings that are built into the design if they were to try to commence a takeoff without the folding wingtips. On landing, the wingtips will fold automatically once the pilots decelerate through a certain speed, and then so that they're in place in a folded position for their taxi to the gate.
Okay.
The design itself is a very large locking pin that travels through the locking mechanism, which keeps the wingtips folded in flight, and they're also inhibited in flight, so they cannot be folded in flight. And that's really it. Very reliable, and a great feature that adds additional wingspan and makes the wing more efficient. And then once it's on the ground, it's exactly the same wingspan as the 777-300ER, so it fits in the same gates and it fits in the same Cody environment on the airport.
I bet it'll be really cool to see that from a passenger perspective when you're taking off and landing, the folding.
I think it'll be a very, very nice feature to look at. Yeah, if you're looking out the window.
There's that one particular bank when it looks like sort of 90 degrees of bank. Is it actually? Do you know?
Well, it's 45 degrees of bank angle.
45, yeah.
No, it's a little bit more than 45 degrees. It's a very highly trained maneuver. We don't recommend anyone else does, and you need to be a flight test pilot to be trained in that procedure.
Don't try this at home.
Don't try it at home.
My name is Malik, and I'm a flight test ground operations engineer. So my job is to manage the airplane's gross weight and center of gravity. We have the water barrels on the airplane, as you can see, 12 in the forward, 12 in the aft. As we're doing various test conditions, we'll move the water from the forward part of the airplane to the aft to counteract that fuel burn to maintain the center of gravity. So depending on the type of testing, whether we're going to test at the forward limit or the aft limit, we'll move the water respectively to maintain that full center of gravity band for the whole duration of the test. Right. This airplane does various testing. We have 4 airplanes in the flight test fleet. Airplane 1 does takeoff performance testing, brakes testing. Airplane 2 does avionics testing. Airplane 3 does engine performance testing. Airplane 4 does environmental control systems testing. Okay. So all 4 airplanes have a dedicated specific kind of testing they do, so it helps us do all the testing simultaneously to help expedite the process. We normally have about 12 to 16 folks on board. It includes the pilot, test director, some systems engineers, instrumentation engineers, ground operations, and that usually adds up to about 12 to 16, depending on the severity of the test.
All touch screens, so you can actually directly interface with the screens, which is a change from the 787.
Yeah.
We have the dual HUDs like the 787 does. Some of the other features, this airplane obviously has brake to exit, which is new to the Boeing fleet. That is one of our newer technologies. It's been working great, slows the airplane down to 15 knots at a selected taxiway, or 30 knots if you choose the high speed. So that's been really great, and it's been working really well. Of course, the wingtips, folding wingtips is a huge area of interest. They've been performing actually flawlessly. It's just like any other configuration check that the pilot does before taking the runway. You know, you set your flaps, you extend the wingtips, you take the runway, and you take off. If the wingtips weren't set to extend when you take the runway, you get escalating levels of alerting to the point where the airplane will actually tell you to reject the takeoff. So there's a lot of protection involved in the wingtip technology and alerting for the wingtip status. That's an area of conversation that a lot of people want to learn about.
Yeah.
On landing, the wingtips naturally automatically fold at 50 knots ground speed. So when the pilots clear the runway, they don't have to start thinking about add to their workload, you know, got to get the wingtips folded. No, they automatically fold. The switch follows the fold, and everything works great. And again, it has been performing really flawlessly throughout the years.
Would you be able to show me where that selection happens?
I almost see it every day. It's a switch right here, and so the crew would normally pull it out and extend it to the extend position. That display then goes from folded. Once the wingtips are extended, it goes to green and it says extended. The wingtips are mechanically locked out, so it's not possible to fold them during flight. They actually electronically isolated, and then mechanically there's a large bolt that goes through what looks like hinges, and it locks out the power and locks out the capabilities. So there's no way that the wingtips can fold in flight. It's been a great airplane. Flying it has been a real pleasure.
Yeah.
The ride is really nice. It's been very comfortable, and up here it's very comfortable. We have some new seats that make the ride a little bit nicer.
Now, the interesting thing about the fact that I just toured the Fly Dubai 737 MAX, and that's really a signature aircraft for them, is they just ordered 150 A321neos. So it's another airline that's a MAX operator that's turning to Airbus. Very curious to know what that is all about in terms of their future. They're also going to get 787s, so they're going to have a much more varied fleet going forward. I don't know if the plan is to eventually get rid of the MAX or keep it side by side with the 321neo and have a mixed fleet like that. I guess they're planning for growth, like everything in Dubai, so it wouldn't be surprising to see them keeping both. You know what's so interesting about the C919, now seeing it up close, is that from afar it looks a lot like an A320neo, just little differences, so it's not so striking. But when you get up close and you see all the text showing different things like landing gear, maintenance door, external power receptacle, seeing all the Chinese script around it and how different it is. When I'm so used to the Boeing and Airbus and how those look, this is very different. It's a detail, but yeah, that's really what sticks out. Otherwise, it just feels like I'm standing under a 320neo with slightly different winglets. Fascinating. right, finally getting on board the COMAC C919 A320 737 competitor. Looks a lot like a 320, but it's not. Pretty amazing to be on board this aircraft. It's not a Boeing or an Airbus or an Embraer or a Bombardier even. It's kind of, yeah, but everything looks as you'd expect it to, just minor differences. You barely know you're not in a 320. And the overhead panel, maybe. Most people would never, ever, ever notice, of course. But even as an expert, it's not so clear right off the bat at all. If you want a knockoff DC-9 business jet, just here, the CBJ. Fascinating. I guess this is the business jet version of the ARJ21. That's in commercial service, very limited commercial service. And it's, yeah, well, it's like a 717 that got kind of put together, reverse engineered or something. Or a DC-9. One thing about Dubai Airshow is there's nowhere to sit down unless you're invited to a special little area. Most things are sort of behind a rope, and in the places where you're going to eat, there's not enough tables, of course. There's not enough space, so many people, so you end up having to sort of find anywhere to sit. And in this case, I would have to sit on the floor if I wanted to have lunch. That's something they should really work on. Thank you. Alright, now we're on board the SCAT 737 MAX, single class layout, nice mood lighting on. Looks like pretty comfortable seats. I've never been on board one of these SCAT planes, Kazakhstan based airline, and they seem really eager to show off what they do here. So that's nice. God, that's an exciting keychain. Might have to grab a few. See, there are treasures if you make it all the way back. Thank you. I heard you saying you did the ferry flight from
Seattle, yeah.
What's the routing that you take for that?
Well, I will stop in Keflavik.
Okay.
Keflavik, we made a technical stop, refueling the aircraft and continue to fly to Chimki. I did it 5 times already. I did delivery 5 times.
Yeah.
Very easy, very nice.
You enjoy that?
Of course, yeah.
It's cool. Well, there you have it, Dubai Airshow 2025, sun setting on day 2, and that's a wrap for me here. I gotta move on. We're gonna fly the Swiss A350 again, actually, on its first intercontinental run to Boston. You'll be seeing that video shortly, no doubt. Of course, as always, really nice to have you come along. Let me know what your favorite thing was at the show. It's always kind of so overwhelming and fascinating and interesting to be here. There's so much to see and we can't possibly cover it all. Actually, funnily enough, one highlight for me really was getting inside the C919 to see the sort of the rise of Chinese aircraft manufacturing. Remains to be seen how much they break into the market, but I have to think that they're only going to get better and better and more viable in that marketplace. So yeah, really the world coming together here, and that's what's exciting about Dubai Airshow and really about Dubai in general. Everybody's here, and always interesting to see what's happening when everybody gets together like this. So I hope you enjoyed. And thanks so much for joining at the Dubai Airshow 2025, and see you again soon.